welcome to Cinablast, the best movie talk show on Kane TV. For today's show, which, by the way, for those of you that don't know, is our last show of the season, we're going to be talking about the best movies of the year, which was really difficult to choose because there were so many great movies happening throughout the year, so we decided to split them into categories to make it easier for everyone. I'm Brian Marrero, joined by...
I'm Crystal Preddy.
And today we're going to talk about the best war/epic movie. And for this category, Chris, you chose Dunkirk, directed by Christopher Nolan. Can you give us some premise on that?
Yeah, I love Christopher Nolan. He makes really good movies. Some are like my actual favorite. The Batman trilogy is, of course, like that's really well known. The Dark Knight, especially being the top one. Interstellar, which is my favorite Christopher Nolan movie because that's just incredible. And Inception, which everybody knows too. But this is like really different. Like this is his first take on war, and it's a really interesting story that he touched on because not a lot of people touch on it. Like it's kind of forgotten in history, but it's a really incredible story. It's like these soldiers are stuck on an island, they have to get home. They rely on the help of citizens who have boats, and anybody who could possibly fit people on a boat, they go get the soldiers and bring them back because the Navy just keeps getting pounded on by the opposing army. And what was really good about this movie was how every shot counted. Like some movies have B-roll, everything has B-roll, but B-roll is like extra shots just to move the story along. But every shot in this movie mattered. Every single one. Everything played out perfectly. The movie follows three different characters, and they're all in three different kind of soldiers. One's like just an infantry soldier. One is like a fighter pilot, and one is follows I think three civilians on their way to pick up soldiers with other civilians and ships. The way the movie drives the suspense and just the thrill aspect of it is that everything is based on time. They have to get here in a certain time, or that's when the opposing army is going to come just destroy the island. In the background with the music, you hear stopwatch, just constant ticking. Like they'll have, of course, like orchestra music and like a big, orchestra playing it, but there's always a stopwatch sound. There's always ticking, and it's really just very suspenseful.
Yeah, it's really interesting because one, you don't really see a lot of movies where you get it from three different perspectives. You just see it from the the hero, the antagonist, and the protagonist. You only get two views, especially in this case because normally here in the U.S. when we learn about World War II, we learn it from our involvement. From what we did, from what on our side, everything, the whole shebang. Whereas we don't really learn what went down on the other side of the pond. We don't know how the British did it. We don't know how the Russians did it. So it's great to at least get it from one perspective, which was Great Britain's involvement and how they all did their best and how it went for them on that side of the war, which is really great, especially for many people. You can say this war is, I guess you could say, current, because it's about maybe just a generation's gap's worth. It's about 70, 75 years ago, so it's about maybe 1-2 generations worth. So it's definitely great for them to bring it to the big screen, especially for the brave men and women that contributed throughout the time of the war. Also, just transitioning on now, we're going to be moving on to the horror category, and for that, we must again highlight the incredible remake from Stephen King's movie from back in, I want to say 1990, which is also the adaptation of the novel. I gotta say, we've talked about this in our first episode, and just like, it just keeps creeping back on us because I can't stop talking about it, even though we're about to turn the page on the new year. It's an instant classic.
Yeah,
that's all I gotta say.
Mm-hmm. It definitely just blew expectations out of the water. Like it's still even playing in some theaters, I bet. It was just, by the time that our first episode came out, it just exploded from there. Like people just really, really were into it. Like no pun intended, they're into it. But it's really, really good. And just, it's a good movie that got its recognition, which is good to see. So hopefully they, continue like the same style how they made the first one for the second part.
Yeah, which is really great considering how the movie came back in 1990. Now, we weren't born, I don't know about you, but I wasn't born in 1990.
No.
So it was great to, I guess when I first saw the first one, I was about maybe 6 or 7 years old.
Me too.
So it was great to see it again, let's say like 19 years later. So it was kind of great, the generational gap, especially for those of the audience that was old enough to see when it first came out in theaters that many years ago, to see them again, because most likely they're probably married with kids, so it's great to have their kids see it, and who knows, I know we're just going to have a sequel coming out in the next couple of years, so it's great to see, who knows, maybe they're going to remake it 27 years from now, so it's definitely going to be great, but it's, because I honestly never thought that they could top Tim Curry's performance as it, because
I did too, I didn't think so
man
either.
Was super creepy,
yeah,
especially, once you see him in real life and you see him dressed up as it and the way he talked, gave me nightmares.
Yeah.
So it's definitely great to see how he was, I want to say not outdone, but his spirit kind of lived on.
Yeah.
Because he was played by Bill Skarsgård. So, with the whole family, great, but they're kind of full of creeps because the whole family does creepy roles.
Yeah, they do.
So it's definitely great to see him carry that tradition. Transitioning on, I guess you could say more in the lane, but it's kind of horror/action. We're going to be talking about the film Kong: Skull Island. For those of you that don't know, Kong is supposed to be a direct sequel to the original Kong movie that came back a couple years back. I know most of you don't remember it because Jack Black was in it, and Jack Black, but. This movie is supposed to be set in the 1960s, sometime after Vietnam or something like that?
Directly after Vietnam.
Okay, so, and I know there's
soldiers are going home in the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, and this was we talk about them trying to transition this, build this together with Godzilla because they want, of course, everything nowadays, you have one franchise, you have another franchise, let's put them together
now
and see what happens.
the whole created universe, because of Marvel.
Yeah, so how do you think that's going to turn out?
I think it's going to turn out pretty good. I'm a huge fan of Godzilla. I'm a huge fan of King Kong. I used to watch all those monster movies with my dad when I was a kid. I really enjoy them. They're really fun. I like the first Godzilla that came out in 2000, I think it was 12 or 13, the new one.
I want to say 2013 maybe.
Yeah. So I enjoyed that a lot. And once I heard this was coming out, I was like, oh, cool, because the last King Kong was good, but, it really wasn't, it just wasn't, my cup of tea. And I love Peter Jackson. He makes really good movies, but this just wasn't, my thing. But this one was really, really good because, one, it didn't play out like a monster movie. It played more out like a war movie. It's like the soldiers go from Vietnam to another jungle, essentially, with just worse things. There's more monsters. There's more just things that are willing to kill you. King Kong looks great in the movie. He's actually kind of scary looking. He's huge. There's on the poster, if you've seen it, they do a really cool shot where there's helicopters flying towards him, and you just see him in front of the sun, so it's just his silhouette and his shadow, and he's just gigantic. And I'm really looking forward to what they're going to do with that movie, because I think in 2020 they're going to have King Kong fight Godzilla, like they did back in the 60s and stuff. So that should be really interesting to see.
It really is because, like you said, it's in the 60s. They just, these guys just got out of Vietnam. Now they're in another jungle. So it's great to see, I guess, the personification of the war itself manifest into this monster and all the atrocities they endure on the island. Because, 50 years later, war changes you. It does things to you that you're never going to be able to get out of your mind. So I guess these guys, they had their own way of fighting it back, especially with these monsters, because war, those angles, war never really leaves you. So for them to go back into this, it was a nice way of them, I guess, facing their nightmares. And then, of course, you're right. The first Kong movie, I slept entirely through it. I can't remember what really happened because it didn't really have enough pizzazz, And in Vietnam, like you said, it's more of a war movie. I know we had a discussion earlier, but you said you thought of it as more like Platoon.
Yeah.
The way I see it too, you could sprinkle a little bit of Apocalypse Now.
Yeah.
Because you could say it was a wartime drama, but with just monsters involved,
right.
Which is really great. But I'm definitely interested to see what they're going to do with Godzilla because I don't know how you're going to incorporate 50 years worth, 50 years later.
Yeah,
and hey, King
Kong,
Kong, let's fight.
You just have a couple gray hairs or something. Yeah.
Yeah, are they going to fight together or going to fight against each other? Because Godzilla can be campy. This is the same TV show where you had the one who go Godzilla, and it was really campy because it was back in the time
it was supposed to be campy.
Yeah. So it's interesting to see them take a serious undertone, and more importantly, who are they gonna fight?
Yeah.
Because Mothra is kind of taken care of in the first Godzilla movie. Kong don't really have much. He doesn't really have much enemies other than just mankind.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see how the dynamic is gonna play between the both of them. But like I said, it's an interesting prospect, and I really did enjoy the movie, as did I'm pretty sure the rest of the audience did. In tune with the horror category, we're gonna be talking about the movie Get Out, which I must say is one of the dark horses for Best Picture of the Year.
Absolutely.
Though I am a little miffed because at this year's Academy Awards, it was nominated as a comedy.
Yeah, that makes no
which,
sense.
for those of you who have seen it, we'll throw this at the TV because we all know it ain't no comedy.
It's not a comedy.
It has some small comedic undertones.
It has some comedic relief. That's it though.
Yeah, but because it's so real, you can't help but laugh. Oh my God, this totally could happen to me in real life. So it's
the moments where you laugh, you realize oh, I've seen that happen before.
Yeah.
I've seen that kind of cringy conversation.
Precisely.
It's
like that Steve Harvey meme where you're laughing, but then you're just this could really happen.
Yeah.
So especially from Jordan Peele, the great mind with Key and Peele, you didn't think that this type of movie could come from his mind, which is what threw everybody off guard.
When I first saw the trailer for this, in the movies, I wanted to see it. I look really interesting. But then like I saw like his name attached to it, and I was like, Jordan Peele, like that can't be the same one. And I looked it up, and it was, and I was really like, oh, okay. And it kind of made sense because Key and Peele every year, I was a huge fan of the show. They did like Halloween episodes where their skits were like actually kind of scary, where they were kind of funny, but like they're actually kind of like disturbing a little bit. And I learned that he wrote most of them, and he's like really has like a talent for like making like horror movies and stuff like that. Like this is like a horror thriller movie with just like some comedic elements like kind of sprinkled in there. And I know you said it's nominated for a comedy. He's mad about it being nominated for comedy, and a lot of its fans are, like the actors are too. They just don't understand.
Yeah, especially given the premise of the story, which you don't have to be necessarily African American to relate to that. You know, he kind of takes upon the idea of, you know, just your typical, you know, white girl brings, you know, black guy home to their parents, and everyone's just like, you know, just like that awkwardness between those two different cultures.
Right.
And you don't have to be African American to relate to that. You could be literally any other minority. It doesn't have to be black and white. It could be, you know, an Hispanic going into like an Indian culture for the first time, just a clash of cultures. And I guess you could say the amount of ignorance, you know, and like a naivete, you know, just people being naive in the course of it. And this just kind of takes on like that idea and just like, okay, let's do worst case scenario and all the racism and all everything like that. And let's just, you know, make it really evil. Not evil, but like, you know, just like the fears that everybody has in regards to it, which is really great to see, just because there's like little details in that movie when you're like, oh wow, you know, like when they're all coming in, like, you know, when all their guests are coming in the black cars, and then the groundskeepers giving them all a hug, which is pretty symbolic because they know that, you know, most of them are going to be leaving in new, you know, not to give you any spoilers, but they're going to be leaving in new bodies, hence why they came in black cars and all that. And it's, you know, and I guess Jordan Peele did talk about it, what it feels like to be a black man in America, and, you know, having to do with all the racial undertones, which, you know, most people can't relate to it, so it's great for him to at least try and portray it onto the big screen, which is more frustrating as to why it was nominated as a comedy in the first place, because it's definitely a horror movie, no doubt about it.
No, yeah, no doubt.
No doubt about it.
Like, I also think it was really, like, masterfully written, too, because he wrote it, and every single, like, the best part of this movie for me was like afterwards. Like, you got to leave, you sit down, you go home, you go in your car, you're driving home, and and of course you can't help but think about the movie, you know, like what you liked, what you didn't like, and like the more you think about it, the more you realize like, oh, that's what that meant, and this is what that meant, this is what he meant here, this is like the symbolization of like what he was going for. Like, it was really, really like just incredible. It was really well
people
done.
don't give him enough credit because
No, they don't.
because of his comedic background. I'm like, just because somebody has a comedic background doesn't mean they're not capable of writing a drama or writing a great horror movie. You know, just because my man does a great Obama impression doesn't mean he doesn't know how to, you know, make you have nightmares for the rest of the week after watching that movie.
Yeah.
So, you know, just, you know, put some respect on that name, folks. Transitioning now, we're gonna move on to the action category, and we definitely need to talk about. I'm a huge fan of cars, driving cars. I like to drive sticks, so we're going to talk about Baby Driver.
Yeah.
Because it was directed by Edgar Wright, the same guy who directed Ant-Man. Now, this movie is about just your generic getaway driver, but he only listens to music when he's driving robbers away from the bank, which most people can't really seem to relate, but it's a great movie. I definitely recommend everybody to watch this movie because you will be on the edge of your seat.
Yeah, it's really, really well done. Just like constant action, just really good story. The acting's fantastic. You have Ansel Elgort, I think his name is. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. Who's in Fault in Our Stars? Just, you know, just came out of the woodwork and just did this.
Nobody would take him seriously. I would have taken him seriously.
No, I wouldn't have either.
Like, dude, you're in Fault in Our Stars. That's like a rom-com for teens. And it's just like, I'm not gonna take you seriously. But after watching him in that movie, I was like, all right, bro.
And like, he's really good. John Hamm's really good in it. Jamie Foxx is incredible in it. He plays a really nasty guy. Another guy who's in it, not for long, but he's advertised, is John Barenthal. He was in The Walking Dead and a couple other movies. He's the Punisher now on Netflix. He's really, really good in it too. He plays like an absolute psychopath. But the movie's done really, really well. Again, just like Dunkirk, it kind of plays into the music aspect of it because everything is set to music. Like, for instance, in the beginning scene while Ansel Elgort's character is in the car waiting for the robbers to come out so he can drive them away, he has his iPod in, he has his earbuds, and he's just like, you know, pumping himself up, getting ready to go to the music. And, you know, he's like, you know, like playing the steering wheel, like the drums, whatever, he's getting all into it. And he puts on the windshield wipers. And that's when the movie kind of starts following the tone of the music. The windshield wipers like go perfectly in beat with the music. And from there on out, everything just goes in perfect time with the music. It's like incredible. So like screeching of the tires that go with the music, beeping the horn will even go with the music. You know, he shifts gears that goes with the music. It's really, really well done.
Yeah, everything's in perfect harmony, especially since you have an ensemble of actors who have been in the business for as long as they have, to able to play off this young action hero, which we don't see much often. We don't get a lot of young action heroes. You know, the last action hero I can remember, either Schwarzenegger from Commando, I guess you could say John Wick, but Keanu Reeves, even though he looks immortal, almost, you know, he's like almost 50 something. So you don't really see guys, you know, like our age being the center of an action film. And the film itself is kind of, it's like a huge music video, which is lots of action in it.
Right.
But, you know, I guess you can take that as a positive and a negative, you know, for your own cup of tea, for whatever it is people are into nowadays. But it's definitely great to see that dynamic, you know, because like I said, we don't have a lot of young action heroes, and it's, you know, we really need more, you know, because I'm tired of having to see, you know, 50-something guys act like, you know, they're athletically, and like, you can't do none of this, bro. You
like
can't.
Stallone, just
Stallone almost 70, and he's still doing these expendable movies, and he's Rocky. I'm like,
still Rocky.
Come on, son. And also in regards to the action adventure category, we gotta bring up Spider-Man. Definitely one of the most pleasant surprises, considering we've had a reboot.
This is the third Spider-Man.
This is the third Spider-Man in the last 5 years. So, you know, like, something had to be done about this. And I definitely enjoyed it, especially since you got Michael Keaton as the Vulture. You know,
he was really good. I was surprised with how good he was, honestly.
Again, it plays off that whole, you know, older seasoned actor who's been in the business for a lot of years, knows what they're doing, to be able to just play off and just kind of guide this new guy into the role. And it's definitely great, because then you have him, and then you have Robert Downey Jr. I would definitely, if you tell me you can make 5 Spider-Man movies with just Michael Keaton and Robert Downey Jr., I'm like, I'm in. Take my money. Take my money. And most people don't really seem to appreciate Spider-Man films just because of how, you know, bad the last, not this one, but the Amazing Spider-Man was Andrew Garfield.
Yeah, and the third regular Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire, that was horrendous.
Yeah, let's not talk about that.
That was really bad.
Let's
like, as a kid, like, Spider-Man was always my favorite. Like, I had Spider-Man shirts, like, toys, whatever. So Spider-Man was always, like, my #1 superhero, and I was really excited for the movies and stuff. Now, of course, you know, I'm an adult, so now I don't do that stuff. But, like, I still enjoy Spider-Man movies. So, going into this, I was kind of, like, you know, like, not, like, totally sold on it. Like, all right, he was cool in Civil War, but, you know, is it going to be good? And I was surprised. It was very, very good. And the villain, Michael Keaton, was excellent. Like, a lot of the villains in Marvel movies now really don't have a purpose to, like, just do what they want to do. It's like, oh, I'm tired, like, power. Like, I want the power. Like, that's it. But this guy had, like, a legit reason to be angry and to be a supervillain. So that was really interesting to see. And Tom Holland, who played Spider-Man, was very, very good, too. Like, really, like, had, like, the wit about him like Spider-Man does and stuff. So overall, it was really enjoyable.
The one knock against Marvel has always been their villains, because they never really had any villains that are just able to stand out.
Yeah, never fleshed out.
Never fleshed out. You know, I guess you could say Loki, even though he's kind of like a recurring theme. And, you know, he's like, okay, cool. But you don't really have when you're like, oh, you know, this guy could really do some damage. Like, I'm really invested to see more of him later on in the films. Because with Marvels, you just, you know, insert villain here. Okay, you're done. On to the next movie. Because they're trying to lead up to Infinity War. So they're just like, okay, here you go, here you go, here you go.
Right.
You have your turn. Let's do this. Move on. But with Vulture, it's like, okay, you know, this man can definitely have an impact, especially the way
you feel bad for him, which is you're supposed to sympathize with your villain kind of a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, because the way they portrayed him, you know, is like, you know, your average day New Yorker trying to make a living in New York, and then you know he's gonna get screwed over by Tony Stark out of all people, and you know it's gonna be like David versus Goliath, where you know it's the little man versus the big man, and they kind of put like their own twisted take on it, just as you know, to kind of like manipulate him, you know, to see how a good man can go bad. But it was definitely great to see, especially since how we're leading up to Infinity War. We may not get Iron Man anymore or Captain America. So I really think that Marvel's really putting their chips in the middle of the pile on Spider-Man to be the face of the franchise of Marvel Studios from like the next couple of years to come, which is great because this kid's young. The actor playing him is pretty young.
He's
like
younger
20,
than me.
21. Yeah, definitely younger than us. You know, Tobey Maguire, my man was in his mid-30s when Spider-Man came out. Andrew Garfield, he was still pretty old, Spider-Man-wise, up there. So it'd be great to, as the audience gets older, for this Spider-Man to get older as he goes from high school to college and et cetera, if we're able to, you know, the movies, if that's what Marvel's plan is, for them to last that long with Spider-Man, because you never know what Marvel may do. You know? So, but now let's see what you, the King students, think of this year's movies.
All right, KTV, I'm here with Kevin, and we're talking favorite movies of the year. Kevin, what was your favorite movie of the year 2017?
I would definitely have to go with Get Out, just because like there was a lot going on. Just with stuff really, I mean, like, you have a general idea that it goes on, but like when you see it in a movie, it's kind of funny, like, you know what I mean? It's just hilarious what goes on. It's great.
Yeah, definitely an all-around masterpiece, right?
Oh, definitely. It was funny as well as like horrifying, which was pretty fun. I thought it was a well-written, well-directed movie.
Do you have a favorite part of the movie?
I would probably say when like the guy was running at night when he went out to smoke a cigarette, and like they like they put the camera up close. There was a lot of like memes and things on Twitter about that, so that was definitely like a really funny part. I was excited to see it.
Yeah, definitely really cool. All right, man. Thanks for talking with us.
My man.
What's up? I'm here with Francisco, and we're talking our favorite movies of the year 2017. Francisco, what was your favorite movie of the year?
My favorite movie of the year was, I would say, Baby Driver. It was a huge action film. It was very, very action-packed, and some things that happened in the movie was just like out of nowhere that you weren't expecting, and it was just a really cool part.
Yeah, definitely. What was your favorite part about it, you think?
I think I like just the whole story concept. He was, it's like kind of like he was stuck. He wanted to, just raise enough money for whatever reason he had, and then he tried to get out. They made it hard for him, and then he fell in love. So it's like the typical kind of story, but that love made him want to run away and start a better life.
Definitely. Thanks for talking with us. Talking about our favorite movies of the year. So, what was your favorite movie of 2017?
Justice League, definitely.
Yeah, what was so cool about Justice League?
When Superman came back.
Spoilers there.
Oh, sorry.
But so yeah, I guess if you haven't seen it by now, sorry. But so what else? What do you think was really special about the movie?
Jason Momoa was in it.
Okay. All right, so there you go.
What a great year of film, and what a fun season we've had here on the set of Cinablast. That's all we have for you. We really hope you've enjoyed the many episodes we've had and the commentary we've been able to bring. And thanks for watching us. Thanks to the Kane TV crew. You guys are the real MVPs for making this show possible. It's been a pleasure to be here with you guys. Until next time.